Welcome back to Soulful Strategies with Kathleen Amy. This is where business meets intuition and where we talk about strategy and systems in a way that respects your intelligence, your sovereignty, and the fact that you're trying to build something that feels real and that is in alignment with your business, something that you can actually stand behind, something that doesn't require you to contort yourself. And something I keep noticing collectively and in my one-to-one work is how much tension still sits around selling. And underneath it, it's really not because people don't believe in what they do or their vision or their mission. And it's definitely not because they don't want to be paid. It's really much more subtle than that. And it's the way that selling still carries this emotional charge for lots of people, especially women. You'll hear it in how it gets said. I don't want to be salesy. I just want to give value. I don't really like talking about my offer too much. And it's usually said with this carefulness, like you're trying not to overstep some invisible line. And I really get it because for a lot of us, particularly people who have been socialized as women, there's this whole layer of conditioning around not being too forward, not being too direct, not taking up too much space, and not wanting to be too much, not being seen as pushy. It's not always conscious, but it can be there. And then you start a business and suddenly you're in a world where you're expected to talk about your work, talk about yourself, talk about your business, talk about your vision and your mission, invite people in, be visible, be clear, be confident, sell. And business really has a way of bringing all of that up. It's like an accelerated self-development path because you start seeing yourself in high definition. You start seeing your edges, your patterns, your voice, the places that you go quiet, the places you over-explain, the places you maybe overcompensate, and you learn a lot through running your own business. So when someone says to me, I just want to post value, I don't hear that as wrong. I hear it as, okay, what are we actually trying to do here? What are we actually trying to avoid? Because if you're showing up online as a business, you're already positioning yourself, even if you're not naming it that way. If you're educating, it's because you want to build trust. If you're sharing a behind the scenes moment, it's because you want someone to feel closer to you, connected to you. If you're reflecting, it's because you want someone to resonate with how you see things. And if you're nurturing, creating nurturing content, it's because you want someone to feel safe in your world. And that's not a bad thing. That's literally the point. And where it starts to feel icky, in my experience, isn't the fact that you're selling by doing these things. It's when you're trying to pretend that you're not. And it's when you're telling yourself and maybe your audience as well that something is just value when your body knows and your mind knows there's an agenda underneath it. Not a sinister agenda, just an intention. You want to be chosen. You want to be trusted. You want your work to be received. You want to be paid for what you do. And that is not a bad thing. It is the point of running a business. But if you can't admit that to yourself, you end up in this split. You write one thing, but your body is holding another, and people can feel that. You can feel that. It comes out as tension, second guessing or over explaining, and that feeling of why does me posting this feel a bit off energetically, even when the words are technically fine. And when I talk about this, it's not to shame people. It's not because you're manipulating your audience. It's because you're trying to manipulate yourself into believing you're not selling when you actually are. And the moment you stop doing that, it just becomes more steady because you can just own it. This post is building trust. This post is building resonance. This post is nurturing. This post is inviting, and I'm selling because I'm running a business. And it's not in like a label everything, but it's just really clean, really honest way. And honesty makes you feel calmer. It makes you feel more congruent. It makes your marketing feel less performative because you're not trying to hide what you're doing, even if it's just to yourself. You're not trying to dress it up as something else. And That is why I keep coming back to rhythm, because rhythm makes selling less charged when you understand that your authority content, your connection content, your nurture content, all of this content in your ecosystem is part of how people come to trust you. Then the invitation doesn't feel like this abrupt pivot. It's not like, surprise, here's my offer. It's just the natural next step being named, and people are already expecting it. If people are on your business page or following you in your business, they're expecting on some level to be sold to. And the people that I'm working with, you're not going to need more hype. You're not going to need more urgency. You're not going to need more pressure. You're going to feel better when you have congruence and showing up consistently without feeling like you're betraying your values or flattening your voice is really going to help that congruence. And you want to sell and still be a deeply ethical person. You can sell and still be a deeply ethical person. You can want to be paid and still be grounded. You can be strategic without being sleazy. So if selling has felt sticky and a bit icky, I'd be more interested in whether you're feeling congruent than whether you're posting the right amount of sales content. A lot of the time, what people call salesiness or I'm being too salesy is just actually misalignment. It's pushing past your own truth or hiding your own truth, and your body and your energy is registering that as off, and you're worried that other people might register that as off. And so if you want structure that supports this in a steady way, that's really what the Soulful Social Rhythm is for. It gives you that baseline where selling is really integrated. It's not icky. It's not like flashy. And where your content has that pulse and that rhythm that you can return to, even when you're tired, even when life is full, even when you're not in launch energy. I'll put the details in the show notes if you want to explore it below. And if you don't, still take the permission. You're allowed to want to sell. You're allowed to want to be paid. You're allowed to be intentional about how you're positioning your business and your work without turning yourself into somebody you're not. Thank you for listening in. If this episode has supported you, I'd love it if you rate the show, share it with a friend, leave a comment, or send it to someone who's been tying themselves in knots around selling. We all do it. I've been there too. And it really just helps more of the right people find soulful strategies, and it genuinely means a lot.